If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And if it doesn't change you, it won't transform you. And I've just been doing it for 5 years and absolutely love the entrepreneurial journey, love the journey of impacting others. So it was birthed out of pain, right? Out of pain comes your purpose.
And maybe, hopefully, they're not facing the same tragic or just setbacks right in that part, but they know they are just absolutely unhappy with where they stand today, but they're scared.
Clarity on what that mirror looks like, you're actually more bold, confident, take steps because you're seeing things clearly. And so that's where coaching really has its most powerful upside. It's a co-creation of time and space together. And it's just magic happens in those sessions. And it really transforms people's thoughts, their beliefs.
I'm excited to have you. We had a great talk talking about really just helping people change their patterns, right? All right, welcome back to the Live 100 podcast. I'm super excited today for today's guest, Quinn Harwood, or Coach Q, as we know him. So, Quinn, welcome to the show. How you been?
Hey, Jason, I'm thrilled to be on. And I got to say, I just love what you're doing. I love the Live 100. I love how you move people into action. And I love the impact you're making in this next generation. It's right up the line of my heart. So I'm excited to be on today, Jason.
Good. Well, I'm excited to have you. We had a great talk right before we jumped on here, just talking about really just helping people change their patterns, right? Changing their behaviors and just really course correcting so people can get the life that they truly desire. So where was it in your life that you had that transition potentially from a learner, which we all still are today, but where the Coach Q moniker actually came on board?
Yeah, Coach Q really got birthed a long time ago, but the essence of it was really during COVID, Jason. My journey of COVID was a casualty. So, I was in my mid 40s, had a good corporate role, corporate journey, was a mid-senior level manager, did real well. And then COVID happened. And so I went through a crisis, and I went through a personal crisis, which is very unfortunate. I was going through this unexpected challenge with the breakup of a family, which people go through, but it's painful. And at the same time, I got furloughed from my role in my job as a mid-senior level manager. And that was with 24 Fitness, a good group, good company. And they eventually eliminated my role. They went BK, they reorged, they closed about a third of their gyms, and my job was eliminated. So, at the mid 40s, you're not really thinking about career changes or opportunities, but I was ready for it. I was enthused by it. And so all the work I'd done in personal growth over the years had built me up to a place of confidence where I go, okay, what's next? Where's this next step? How can I stay true to my mission? How can I really impact the next generation and help them get strong life leaders in business? And man, coaching came forward, Jason. Like coaching was this avenue and pathway that came forward. And I jumped into it. I dove into it, created a whole growth time, personal growth and professional growth model. And I've just been doing it for 5 years and absolutely love the entrepreneurial journey, love the journey of impacting others. So it was birthed out of pain, right? Out of pain comes your purpose, and then you got to pursue it with confidence and take actionable steps. But that's how it all started.
For someone who's listening, right, and maybe, hopefully, they're not facing the same tragic or just setbacks right in that part, but they know they are just absolutely unhappy with where they stand today, but they're scared, right? They're scared to make a pivot, right? For many different reasons. Maybe they're in their 40s and that constant job or that constant paycheck is a thing coming every week. What could be something of a signal or a step or a pivot that they could do today, just help reposition their mind to look at this as not a setback, but as an opportunity?
Yeah, the key is establishing vision. And once you get a clear vision and then that establishes a motivational change, you'll start to change. So the core precept in terms of change is like you've got to have enough pain to want to make the change. And you got to have a vision of what could be greater to make the change. And then you got to take the next first step to make that change. There's a great thought I have. It's if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And if it doesn't change you, it won't transform you. So you've got to hit this place in your life where you're like, okay, I'm just really uncontent, but I'm going to create a new vision of what my greater day looks like, what someday could look like for me if I break out of this shell. So I've walked plenty of coaching clients through this journey, exploration of getting visionary insight to start to explore what could be possible in their life without beliefs, barriers, and mindset holdbacks. And it's amazing. Once you start to help that person explore what could look like, they get motivated, they get energized by it. And then that also is a catalyst for them to take that first step and they're really pursuing what their heart, what their mission is, what their calling is.
Yeah, that next first step, I like hearing that, right? So it's like we constantly have to take first steps, but you just have to take that next one. And sometimes we're like, oh, we just tried this. Well, okay, well, I was stuck with this and it didn't work out. Okay, we got to take that next first step. So that model of that word and just the fitting together of putting that next in place puts you in line to you understand that you're going to have to take a lot of first steps to get through your journey. So it looks like coaching really stood out to you when you had a pivot, right? What was it that felt right about going in that direction with really moving into the coaching platform?
Yeah, I actually worked with a coach. And to me, Jason, I also worked with what I call the great growth coach. I'm a pretty faith-based person. So I worked with Coach God, I'd call it, and I kind of navigated through with the coach. And I created a vision, worked through it, got asked some deep, hard, challenging questions, and began to explore what I thought that next vision would look like for my life. I naturally had some propensity in my life story to help people navigate life. I have a lot of background in terms of coaching men and people and leaders. And then I had a great background in leadership and people development in the corporate culture. I was a go-to person. So when they started to come together, I said, wow, what if I could combine them and really kind of make a move and put coaching as a theme, as a thought to make an impact? And that's really the catalyst. Once you find your, genius gift, your gift of calling, the pathway you want to make a difference in life, it just begins to flow and the energy and your movement and your focus begins to channel the direction. But I will say, Jason, as you know, nothing comes easy. Like nothing's guaranteed. You've got to put in the work. You got to keep waking up. You got to get past through your own limiting beliefs and your stupid stories we tell ourselves. And you got to keep making challenging changes so that you can move your journey and your mission forward.
Yeah, I like to think, that day can go great, but every day you have to wake up, right, and repeat that same part in your mind to be ready to go again, right? Because it's a whole new reset each and every day. For someone who's a student of coaching myself, right, what makes someone who maybe hasn't put themselves out there before to have coaching into their world, right? What makes someone get the most benefit out of coaching or be a great student, right? What can help someone be ready for this?
Yeah. So it's mindset. Mindset changes behavior. So one thing I coach to is there's always a time that exists in our seasons and times in life. And so what always exists, as I say, it's always growth time, baby. So once you jump into a growth mindset, there's tremendous possibilities for you to navigate your fulfillment, your energy, your future, your leadership, your business endeavor. It creates great possibilities, with it. Coaching is powerful. Most people think coaching, if they're not familiar with what business coaches or life coaches do, they think it's like a consultant. They're just going to tell you what to do. It's not the heart of coaching. Like as a professionally credentialed coach, what we really do is help people explore where they are, what they're looking for, what value a coach would really offer, where they feel stagnant or stuck, what goals do they really have. And a lot of times we deal with so much information in this age, we're not really in touch and tune with what that looks like for ourselves. So coaching offers this safe exploratory space and then really helps you hold up a mirror to where you are. And once you get clarity on what that mirror looks like, you're actually more bold, confident, take steps because you're seeing things clearly. And so that's where coaching really has its most powerful upside. It's a co-creation of time and space together. And it's just magic happens in those sessions. And it really transforms people's thoughts, their beliefs, and just moves them to powerful action that they really want to do, but they got some crap or some stuff in their mind that's holding them back from going to do it.
Is there an exercise or some questions someone can ask themselves right now just to help their mind reset or reframe into growth instead of, setback?
Yeah. There's a great, Carol Dweck did a great kind of study on the growth mindset, and her work is pioneering several decades ago. But really, it's simply of understanding what a fixed mindset is and when you have a growth mindset. So tactically, you can start to realize when the story starts to be fixed and can happen, not sure, not able to grab a hold of that. It can't happen because of this, or hey, yeah, but, or maybe, but. So fixed mindsets are restrictive, they're controlling, and they really create a lot of stress within us. So the way to get out of that is say, hey, if there's a clean slate, how many possibilities can I list? So how many possibilities, what potential can come out of this action that I may take? That gets you into growth. And so getting into options of what could happen rather than being fixed on some of the negative trails we run in our head is a powerful resource. And really what I've even had coaching clients go do is when they're stuck in that, get a list together, like get your journal out, do some self-growth and improvement. And this is actually a challenge to your audience, right? I'm going to just challenge them. So get a piece of paper, write fixed mindset and growth mindset, and start navigating through the things you're struggling or frustrated with, or you're not seeing the results you want to see in an area of your life, your family, your finances, your business, and start seeing where some of the fixed stories are and start saying, okay, let me get into a growth mindset and what are the possibilities that could exist and get into that frame. You start listing them out and you start to go, wow, man, I didn't realize how many places I might just be getting stuck in myself and my own head.
Can I ask, so the fixed mindset with the stress, is it because we're on a fixed loop in our mind with the same repeated habit over and over again? Is that where the stress is pulling us back or pulling us into?
Well, what happens with fixed mindset is we become very fearful and controlling underneath of it. We become self sabotaging. And so, in the journey of us being fearful, controlling, self sabotaging, we start to restrict opportunities and we start to come up with almost a victim story half the time. So, what happens is we're not created to live like that. We're created to live free, fast, live big lives. So, when we start to get in a fixed space, what happens is it creates this internal stress even in our bodies and our well-being, and that creates a different level of, you can get into the science behind it, but it creates different releases of hormones and different releases of cortisol and stuff in us that creates a different heightened sense of stress. And that's what you got to avoid, right? But when those things are pertinent in us, you start getting a fixed thought and you keep staying in this loop, and it's hard to break out of that.
I would think many times in life, we get set based on just, how we grow up, how we're raised, just who we're around, right? Where we go to school, right? It starts to create those fixed avenues in our mind, right? And we think that has to be the way until something breaks you out of that pattern, right? Whether it's you, right? You choose that it's time, right? I'm fed up or I just need to do something different, right? Or you have a life event, right? Or many other parts that come in. But sometimes in life, we go through that whole life in that fixed mindset and you're stuck in that part where you are your own worst enemy each and every day, right? And you find all these different things, right, that you want to blame, right? You want to say, oh, well, how I was raised or just my income level, when we were growing up or the school I went to or, right, the job I have, right? We find all those ways until we take back control in our mind, right? So how do we pivot from looking outward to get back to look inward?
The journey of personal growth, and that's really at the core of what I coach to, really, when you're looking at it, entrepreneurialism, leadership, it's all a personal growth journey. So getting focused in that realm is really identifying where your growth gap is. Because you're right. In my perception, Jason, we are somewhat a product of environment. We're a product of the people we hang around. Getting around people that are like-minded has its value, but it also has its distractors if we're not in the right arena. So we are a product of that. And so when we get stuck in those places, it's about identifying where these growth gaps exist in our life. Where does these growth gaps exist in our leadership? Where are some of the growth gaps if you're a business owner today? Like, where's my growth gap in my business? And oftentimes we don't have clarity on what they are, so we just fight and struggle to get through them. So the journey is helping people get clear on where their really growth gap is. And it creates this aha moment like, oh, wow. Okay, it's not something wrong with me. It's not completely wrong with how I'm doing or thinking in life. It's really just my mindset shift. And now I've identified where this really growth gap is, and you feel empowered to attack it. And it's just like fitness. I know you're a fitness lover. I am too. Unless you understand where weakness and deficiencies are, you could keep doing the same dumb exercises again and again and not seeing any results. So the challenge you see with people is sometimes we're just not aware of the growth gap that needs to be addressed so that we can get the gains, which we love fitness. We love gains, and we can get the gains we want.
And that's the power of a coach because we can think through this all the time, right? But we're in our own shell, right? I used to I still do. I have a friend who says, it's like we're inside the jar and we can't see the label, right? Then you have someone come in and they can actually just look at you and say, it's just this one little adjustment. You're not that far off, right? And we always think we're so far away, right? And we're usually just a step ahead or a step behind of where we want to be, right? And someone can come in who's a great coach and they can look at you and say, you're doing everything right, but you're just 2 degrees off from where you need to do it just in this one place. And if you just make this one change or just one course correction, whether it's just, financially, physically, emotionally, right, rationally, spiritually, right, try that one adjustment and then it can guarantee that you're going to make some just huge strides that you were set back, right? It's like, bench pressing. If you go and at some certain part, right, you're pushing too much with your shoulders, right? And someone sits back and says, push your shoulder blades together, just those little things, right? You say you may lose a little strength up front, but you're going to get massive gains in the future right now because you're being restrictive just based on how you're trying to push with just one muscle group to be able to push through on the exercise, right? It's many times emotionally too, right? We're trying to meet every emotion with the same reaction, right? We're in the same part. We're not recognizing how we're showing up in the moment, right? And we're not recognizing that throughout a day, right? Say, someone cuts us off in traffic and we've had the fantastic day, right? Best day ever. But all of a sudden someone cuts us off in traffic and who knows, maybe they didn't see us. Maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe they were rushing to the hospital. Who knows? But our day's ruined, right? It's off. And here we are. Our whole day's ruined because this guy cut me off and I'm mad as can be, right? But you had a wonderful day. And when we can get back into our life to start just controlling our reactions to these emotions, it starts to set our mind free to just look at and have the space to look at just opportunities that are available to us every single place we look.
Yeah, and that's something powerful, Jason. It's something I coached you quite a bit. And actually, the third section of the book I just came out with, Growth Time, really covers this. It's about coaching through how to unlock your best life in leadership. But the third section really nails it. And I spent a lot of time talking about this, speaking about it, and then coaching to it. I call it the power of personal liberty. And personal liberty is this freedom that we need to grab inside. And how do we gain our liberty to be our most authentic, God, best version of ourselves that we can be. And it's all these little different places of growth when 3 layers between our body, soul, and spirit, and how we grow through those layers in life and navigate them that really sets us free, which helps us show up, right? You just can't show up at the day. You got to really just show up your best self. And I can recall even in my, gosh, it was probably my early 30s, and I was just done. I had some bad challenges that happened with playing professional basketball. I got knocked out through a whole bunch of injuries. My head was in a different space, and it was very frustrating to figure out what my future looked like and what the opportunities were going to be. And it was just all this like mess that we deal with in life. And it's all, there. And what I learned through that journey was how to self-manage myself to success. And that's one of the greatest courses we can take in understanding our growth gaps, so that if we're self-managing ourselves, those little things like when we're driving down the freeway, we're not ready to give somebody the bird just because they cut us off and we act out of our normal value self, right? So there's places where that growth I've seen and that growth gap of understanding how to truly get free as a person and how to show up strong, it's been a game changer for myself personally, in my mid-20s and just practicing those disciplines now to people that are in the 30s and 40s. It's the secret sauce to life.
With the basketball journey, right? Hey, how did you mentally accept or change identity, right, in your mind? Because you see people get stuck that I am just this person, right? And they have a hard time adapting, right? I guess the easiest one would be like someone who's in the Olympics, right? For such an early age, right? Their whole life has been spent, getting to the Olympics and choosing or meeting some goal, right? Hopefully they do. But at some part, they have to evolve to that next stage in their life. And it's hard for them to mentally accept both the course correction and the new identity that they take on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a powerful thought really to share with your audience. And I recently just had a coaching client who's successful senior level manager. And where he's at is he's thinking about making a transition out of it. And in that sense, he's having an identity crisis. He's having to identify what he's identified so strongly with for years. He's having to shift what his identity becomes. No different that if you're a empty nester right now and all of a sudden your kids leave, you've got an identity crisis. Your role as a parent has changed. You go through a career change or transition, identity changes. So for me with basketball, what I learned was for sure what I had to grow through that basketball, and it could be whatever, I had so intimately bonded to it that when I was doing well, I felt good. When I wasn't doing well, I didn't feel good. So I went under the performance roller coaster, I call it, Jason. My identity was so wrapped up in basketball, but it was more wrapped up in my performance and that identity. So you just roller coaster through life. I had to learn that there was identity anchors outside of what I did that could stabilize me and be anchors when things weren't going well, when things were transitioning in life. And the identity anchors couldn't be shaken. And that's the value of identity anchors.
What would be an
Basketball can be
example of
taken
that?
away.
What would be something as an anchor that you were using?
I love it. So my identity is built into my mission. So I coach people through a process of getting clear on your mission, almost like a clear, strong mission statement for your life. That is higher, that transcends what I do. My mission is always going to be a guiding anchor for my life. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling tired, lethargic, frustrated, I've got to center myself on this anchor. And I created this mission statement, 20 years ago. But my mission is to grow and develop leaders' lives through impactful coaching, training, and education. So if I center my life on that anchor of my mission, I'm not going to be as moved if things don't go my way in terms of what I'm actually doing that day or what my identity is in life. Another great anchor we coach through is really core key values. So having your core values that are so intrinsic to you that like either drive you crazy when they're not there or make you full of joy when you see them in your life and people. Identifying core values is another strong anchor. And then another layer I coach through quite a bit, which gets avoided a lot in the coaching world, is I coach through, if people are open, a faith lens. Okay, so what is an anchor? How does God view me? How does God see me outside of what's happening in this world? They become anchors when you start to get some truths in there that transcend what I'm doing in life. And therefore, when you're not in a place of performance mode or driving the excellence you want, you still got these anchors that stabilize you. And they actually help you do better day after day because there's identity anchors in you.
Why do you see such avoidance in the faith aspect of an anchor, or your opinion or thought?
Yeah, I think in the coaching world, it's unknown. I think there's a lot of ambiguity out there for people. People are afraid to explore and coach to or talk through what spirituality means to a different person in a different way. Yet it's a core part of our being. And yet the coaching world coaches through, hey, let's coach through the whole person. Let's just not coach through an isolated incident that they're dealing with. There's a person involved in the story. So we talk about coaching through body, soul, spirit, or spirituality, but it's never really coached to. It's never really explored is the best way to say that. It's not like preaching at people, but you're allowing people a safe space to explore what spirituality, faith, God really means to them. What could it mean to them? What significance could it hold for their life or their story? How could that, if you incorporate it into your life, what would that look like? What value would it offer you? So if you offer a safe space for people to explore that, it's amazing what shifts in their mindset and how they start to realize, oh, there might be some growth time here for me. And that's a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, when we moved here, we joined a new church, of course, moving down to Tennessee, and they had women's group and a men's group, right? So Wednesday night, you have men's group or men's church, as we call it. And it's been a game changer, right? Just to get around like kind of men that are in a room that come from all different aspects or backgrounds every part that just want to talk through their spirituality and just how as men we're growing, right, in the eyes of God. And when you bring people together in that space, it does create that environment where it's conditioned as a safe space, right? And so when you can find people, like-minded people, right, through your coach or through others or just through your journey, it helps you on your role because you could all be at different stages of your life, but you all start to be looking forward, right? Because at times you're stuck in groups or places, right, or positions in your life where you might be part of the problem, but you're around people who are looking constantly backwards. And it's hard for us to change our next step when everything we're doing is rear facing, right? And so if you have that component right now, mentally or physically, right, what should we do to break out of that pattern?
So breaking out of the pattern of being stuck in the mindset of not pursuing spirituality or breaking out of the mind.
Sure. So it doesn't strictly have to be spirituality bound, but in that part, if everything right now is facing the past, right? What can be a pivot we can do right now today to just open our mind to the opportunity ahead?
Forward facing is the best place we could be in life. And then dealing with our belief barriers that are keeping us from facing the future is the goal. So how do you do that? It's the self-assessment journey. And that's where either you're around like-minded people that can expose you to different thoughts, or you're spending time understanding where you're stuck and literally writing it out. Like one of the best things I've seen people do, and there's such a resistance to this, but when they do it, it's a complete next level game changer, is take yourself a good clarity break. Just allow yourself 30 minutes to not be on your phone, to not think about the next activity you got to do, to not drive the next business result, to not make the next sale, and having space. Like we're in the information age, and information is not really helping us. It's hindering us. So getting a clarity break where you can spend 30 minutes and just writing out your thoughts about whatever it may be you feel like is on your mind, whether it's changes you need to make in your personal life, whether it's personal growth you need in a spiritual realm, whether it's, hey, I need some clarity on how I'm really operating my leadership in my business and what that stands for, how I'm going to show up. Either way, clarity is king, and having space is one of the best things anyone can do who's listening. Get your 30 minutes aside, right? Allow yourself space to breathe and then start writing out where you are. It gets it from out of here and into the world and onto paper. And it stops and slows down all the mind screw we put ourselves through.
That resistance is because we have to face the truth within ourselves. And it's hard, right? Especially in the world of distraction to do so. And this exercise is fantastic, especially when someone's facing struggles, right? You know, our mind can't tell the difference between like a level 1 trouble or like a level 10 trouble, right? And so you have these through your day. Say your car broke down and you have a splinter, right? And your dog needs surgery, right? Well, you're facing all of them on that same level of stress, right? Because they're all just up here in our mind, just stuck in our mind, right? And we finally just write down things on paper. It allows us to just look at problems for what they are. It's something we need to find a solution for, okay? And then you can treat each of them in the hierarchy of where they need to be. But it's hard to do that because in our minds, it's easier to almost have the avoidance level in there where we think we're avoiding it, but it still lives rent-free in our mind, right? When we put it down on paper, both good and bad, you can look at the opportunity abound from just having it down clear out of your mind on the paper. So that's awesome.
And Jason, here's a real tactical thing that people who are listening can go do. I call it the clutter game. So the clutter game means we're filled with clutter, like you're referencing. And so I'll have people draw a big circle, and within that, they've just got to storm on all the things that are on their mind, and they've got to put it inside that circle. And so they have to explore all the things I'm thinking about right now, label them, name them, put them within the circle. Then I take them to another level. What's stuff that may be weighing down your heart? And that takes people to a deeper emotional level, activates the right side of their brain, and they've got to go, okay, what are things that are just heavy on my heart in life? And that may take a little bit more thought, processing, prayer, and you write those inside the circle too. Then from there, you can actually navigate what is worth letting go of and say, I can move this out of my circle. Here's how I can move this one out of my circle. Here's this one go out of my circle. How can I maybe come to a clarity quickly on this thing that's navigating my mind? And maybe where's the real core issue within that circle that I need to spend some more time. I need to spend some more time to get whole with, stronger in decision making I'm going to make in that area. So you begin to declutter by playing the clutter game. Been a great little coaching game I play with people who are just like, freaking, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. We get it. We get there, right? Well, here's how we play the clutter game and move things out from the head and the heart and start to make some really bold, confident decisions with it.
That's fantastic. Well, Quinn, that is a great place to stop today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, all of these tidbits, tactics, things we can do just to really just start making the change that we know is within us, but it just can't take that first next step, as you said. So where should people find you? Where can they find a book? Tell us more of where we can go from here.
Yeah, Growth Time. It's back there. If you're watching on the video, you can grab that, The Clear Path to Unlock Your Best Life and Leadership. It's great. It's going to help you navigate to be strong in life and leadership and how you operate. Grab it on Amazon, Amazon.com. Just go for it. It's self-published. It's been doing great. Got some great reviews. Highly recommended, of course, right? I'm kind of biased, but other people recommend it as well. So grab a copy, jump into your Growth Time. The other way you can connect with me, hey, a lot of your people are business professionals. Just hook me up on LinkedIn. Go friend request me, send me an invite. Let's get professionally connected. If I can support your growth journey in any way, let's do it.
Quinn, thanks so much for joining the show today. Super impactful. Thank you for everything. If you're listening today, thank you so much. This is the Little Podcast. If you can do something for us, this has been impactful, which it has. Go out there and share this with someone who needs to hear this message, someone who just needs to hear these words today so they can get out of their own journey and get going today. That's what we have for today. Let's do this.